Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mana on the Rocks. It is I, Joe. Joining me this week, we have... Who is this? It's Atlas. It's Atlas. Say hello, Atlas.
Hello, everybody.
This week, we're doing a tournament recap. Our local shop, Gabi's Olympic Cards and Comics, held our last quarterly event for the year. So we're talking talk. We're seeing what people brought to the tournament. We're talking our own games, figuring out what happened. What you need to know what happened is actually these announcements that are coming up right now. Atlas, inform these people.
All right. So I think the only announcements that are pertinent right now is that regional championships is just around the corner, on November 18th and 19th. So when this episode airs, it's going to be just about a week. So that's really exciting. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of really good players there, and I'm really looking forward to competing with and against you all. As for anything else, I don't think there's really anything else coming up for the end of the year. Just keep in mind that Eminence circuit, it is started up here as of the 1st of this month. So start looking for those events. They allow you to get your qualifier points. So if you get enough, you can get invited to the Eminence Invitational at the end of next year. Got 10 months to accumulate those points and do as well as you possibly can. But that's really all for announcements this week.
All right. Well, got to shout out the lucky patron, as always. This week's episode, shout out to Rez. Thank you very much for the continued support. You should come on down and get a drink with us. Overall, like how I guess at the start of the episode, overall, how do you think the tournament was for you?
I feel pretty good about it. I think all my cards at this point, I'm just like evaluating cards for different things and just trying my best to play to the best of my ability and have fun. And I think I did a good job of both of those things, and all the cards that I had performed as intended. So yeah,
That's good.
I had a good experience overall.
Why? What were like the highlights and like the low points?
I think the highlights. Let me think here. I had an absolutely phenomenal game too. It was super fun. Very, very interactive. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of like negotiating tricky board states. I had an absolute soul read on my opponent across the table.
Oh yeah.
Where they had turn 0 Gemstone Caverns from second seat, and I went turn 1 land Dork pass, and they go turn 2 or turn 1 land Demonic Tutor. They search their library and they pass the turn, and it gets back around to me, and I play Mana Crypt, and I'm looking at my hand trying to decide what to do, and I was like, I think I need to do something to stop the Dimir player across from me because they have Thoracle and Consult in hand. That's what they detutored for. Mm-hmm. And they just looked at me and they're like, how do you know that? And I was just like, well, I do now.
Sorry, buddy, you just self-reported. You fell for it.
I was just like, all right, I'll cast a Spellseeker, get a Flusterstorm. And then the Atraxa player to my right also tutored up a Flusterstorm, and the Consult was just never going to resolve after that because we had held on to them for the entire game. Basically, we almost got trounced by Tivit, but he ended up getting knocked to 1 life and dying off of just a stray Extort trigger. So yeah, it was but it was a really really enjoyable game. And then my game 4 was also like super engaging. Very complex board states. I had to navigate with 2 Rhystic Studies, a Mystic Remora, and a Talion that I was fighting.
Oh god.
Basically 1v3ing. But we ended up getting there in the end, thanks to Dockside Extortionist being a nutty magic card.
It's a very good magic card. I'm a big fan of that card myself.
Yeah, but other than that, I think everything was pretty good. The semis games were really intriguing to watch. I think there were some really interesting plays and like some really good pilots up there. There was a Aranis Street Urchin Hulk deck that made the top 10 cut. Yeah,
that's cool.
Then they literally kissed victory. It was really they misplayed one single time on their final fortune turn, and that's the only reason they didn't win. Is they didn't shroud their Sylvan Safekeeper when they could have.
That's I hate hearing those things. Like it was so unfortunate
because it all came down to a Chain of Vapor on their Snoop piece. And Yeah, yeah, that's really what did it in. So it's a
That's
little tough.
that's so tough hearing. As someone who has also like narrowly missed a lot of games, it always just hurts my soul being like, "Yep, you played perfectly," and then the one mistake you make all game ended up being the most consequential mistake you could have possibly taken.
Yeah, they were in a super dominant position for most of that game too. Kinnan got knocked down to like 5 life super early in the game. Tivit was kind of doing stuff, and then Atraxa was like struggling a little bit on to accumulate resources. And at some point during there was a 3 ball in play from Aranis for a lot of the game, and then at some point they resolved a Dockside Extortionist for like 8 or 9 or something like that, and they were just able to just machine gun the entire table, like everything that mattered. Yeah, yep. They were killing Tivits and like it was just wild. Um, so
Killing
yeah,
Tivits. We're paying for ward triggers. Oh my
yeah,
god.
they are. So that was a really interesting, really cool thing to watch. And then the other semis pod was also like it was less of a nail biter, I think, but it was also uber interesting to watch. Just Rogsai and Demir Malcolm just duking it out,
Mhm.
basically, while Kodama Sakashima and Five Color Sisei struggled to get a foothold. Um, but yeah, both games were really good. And then the winners pod was it was an interesting game. It was a Traxa, myself, Demir Malcolm, and Adric and the War Doctor. So it was a really interesting pod comp as well.
Yeah, the war. Our pilot on the War Doctor. The War Doctor is a cool card. Like I keep forgetting that the card is any player, and
The
like
card is very strong, and
yeah,
it's gonna be. I think we're gonna, as the Doctor Who mechanics get explored more, I think we're gonna see a lot of like new strong archetypal decks emerge from that set, uh similar to how we saw with like Baldur's Gate, where a lot of the cards that we now consider like super busted, or even cards that we're still discovering to be really busted, like different background pairings, like Aranis, right? Aranis and Street Urchin. Like a lot of people like were like, what do these cards do when they first came out? And now we're seeing decks pop up where they're putting up results and they're taking games off of top tier CDH decks, and so it's really interesting to see how the Doctor Who stuff is going to develop.
yeah, it's interesting. It's like I've gone through the set list like once or twice, and each time I pull away with a different thought of like, oh, these cards are kind of cool, and then like I see some cards in action, I go, like the War Doctor, for example. Like there are just a lot of things that just incidentally are exiled to put a counter on him, and then
Yeah.
he just swings and kills someone.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of those things where it's like people don't respect it yet
Oh no,
because it's
not at
a
all.
super unknown quantity. But I think anytime you see something that says deal 2 or more damage to any target and it's repeatable for free, to my mind, that's a
It's pretty
very
good.
strong magic card.
It's very. I mean, like we complain about like bowmasters being able to just pick things off one by one, and like one toughness is such a bad place to be for a good card. Like, yeah, no, repeatable 2 damage, 2+ damage, 100%. Like that's so. Like you have to evaluate those things differently now that we like have seen what bowmasters does, which is effectively just like a lesser version of that card.
I think to some extent, yeah. It's like I think it's a
Well,
better version of the card, but it
it's a
doesn't
different
deal.
version, yeah.
Yeah, it just the Doctor can just deal so much damage right off the bat if you set it up correctly.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting to see that. Um, yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of. I know there's like been some people brewing different like food chain lists with doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's some interesting stuff because there's a partner for the Doctor Who set, where you can set the companion's color to whatever you like, and it doubles Doctor triggers. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of Clara Oswald. So I think there's a lot of like unexplored space here still, and we're gonna see even yet more cards come out that really start to like push new builds, new commanders.
Do you think that's like so? I mean, recently we've talked a lot about like the design of Magic cards and like trying to bolster 3 colors because all the Doctor companion combinations are all 3 colors, right? It's the doctors are 2 colors and the companions are all monocolored.
Yeah, the highest you can get with anything after the original Commander 16 partners is 3 colors.
Okay. That's what I thought. I guess you can do 4 color with the Stranger Things kids.
True, that's true. I wasn't counting them, but
Yeah,
you can get up to 4 or even 5 color with the Stranger Things kids. But the cards are a little janky sometimes. We could still see builds develop yet though, because I know that like Baby Pod wasn't a thing for a long time. Everyone said, "Oh, the Stranger Things kids are pretty unplayable," and look where we are now. So,
yeah,
it's just like anything else in this game. We're just waiting for that one card to get printed that breaks something and pushes an entire deck together.
True. Do you think the design is where it should be in terms of like the power level? Like, is it powerful and interesting enough?
Honestly, yeah. I think a lot of the Doctor Who stuff is it's either like just generically strong, or I think probably more of it is sleeper good. Like the War Doctor is obviously generically strong. It's red and white, which are 2 very good colors, and then the partner pairing stuff allows you to splash in other colors to suit your playstyle. Other commanders like the Renegade Doctor or something like that. Anyways, there's a green and red one that allows you to like retrace or flashback spells once a turn.
Oh yeah, that card's pretty cool. I like that card.
Yeah, so there's some different pairings you can do with that. Some cool tech that people were talking about, like Neoform and things. So I think there are a lot of cards that are just like they're generically strong, or they're like secretly like sneaky really really good at doing like one niche thing. But we're playing Commander, like one niche thing is sometimes all your commander needs to do, especially if it does it really well in like a 3 or 4 color combination pile where you can also just play good cards.
You can surround the strategy enough with just like what you should be doing given your color identity.
Yeah, that it kind of like it cushions it, but then the efficacy of your card in the command zone makes it so that your strategy really pushes a step ahead. And I think that's like one of the things to consider going forwards is like you were saying, what is good set, what is good card design. And I think honestly, I think Doctor Who, like, we can complain about it being IP all we want, but like the actual design of those cards is very good for the most part, especially on the commanders. The rest of the cards, like
I think
the 99 are kind of.
I think I think it's so hard to evaluate like the 99 when it comes to those things, because I feel like we've been very very spoiled for like what commander decks are allowed to print as like an include in a deck. Like you look at the 2019 like free spells and like Dockside, for example, as like the height of like what they're allowed to print as a card to put in the 99. But like even still, like we have a lot of really interesting cards that are like seen play. Like we talked about Everybody Lives last episode. I saw Flesh Duplicate come out this weekend and thought, okay, this card's pretty cool. Like it's just another solid clone effect at 2 mana. It's a little bit more restrictive on the mana cost, but it's a targetable thing, which matters if you're playing like Displacer Kitten strategies.
Yeah, or a lot of other things too, right? You can
like the storm cards, yeah.
Yeah, you can target it with Swords to Plowshares or whatever if you're an opponent and actually get it out of there permanently, which sometimes matters. Like sometimes if a image gets sacrificed because it was targeted, that's bad for the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you're totally right.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I think I need to take another dive onto the set list and see if there's anything interesting in there that I can get my fingies all up in.
I will say there's one card that I think is kind of interesting. It's called Don't Blink.
I think I've read this card.
Yeah, it's basically a Containment Priest effect until the end of turn. So it's blue, but it's in blue. So it's blue in 1 for an instant that says it has the same text as Containment Priest until the end of the turn.
Oh yeah,
if
that's
creature
good.
were to enter the battlefield, a non-token creature, it is exiled instead. And then the card also has just cycling 2. Just because,
on there. Just because,
if the card's dead in the matchup, we wouldn't want someone to have to hang on to it, would we?
Yeah, heaven forbid the card in your hand is actually dead. Yeah. So my tournament experience, we hit the stride, baby. We went, say it with me now, 1-3.
Let's
go. We hit statistical average for 4-person free for all. Let's go. I kid. I think I say this a lot after every tournament, but I feel like I continue to play the best possible game I can, given my own restrictions of I'm just not going to play the best color in the game. But like I think after this tournament, I think I've gained the confidence that I think I can fully separate like my need of like wanting to play blue. Like absolutely, blue helps immensely. Having access to counter magic, having access to the best draw spells in the game, the best draw engines in the game. Just the gameplay that like Ristic Study and Mystic Remora being a card advantage and stacks pieces. Like I understand that I'm playing a worse game. Full stop. Like I understand that. I understand I'm playing suboptimally. It's okay. Because it's I kind of went in with a theory of like I don't know how often I'm going to be like properly or like fully interacted with in a way that like matters a lot, because I view Baby Pod in such a way that like I'm trying to clear a bunch of different things. I'm trying to like as the game progresses figure out where everybody's hand is based off of what I'm trying to do to push my advantage. Oh, you let a creature resolve that you probably shouldn't have resolved. Okay, we might be light on counter magic, or we might not know what we're doing. Or oh, my tutors have resolved. Like all my tutors are very much worth grabbing with Oppo. That means there's no Oppo floating around, and like these like kind of checklist things as they go off. And like my creatures hardly got countered all day. Like
that's good.
Yeah, like hardly at all. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That's
kind are challenging to counter.
They're very very challenging to counter. But no, I have full confidence in the list. I think it's just a matter of I need to just refine my mulligan patterns, and refine like some more of like my micro gameplay, a little bit. It always can be tightened up here and there, but I think for the most part, I think I'm on a lock. I think I'm on a good path. And then like always just like improving the mental and all that stuff. The bit by bits to try and climb higher and higher. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So 1 and 3 started off the day kind of rough. I have my notes this time. I didn't actually tear out my paper. Hold on. I think I mentioned this, but every single time I go to a big tournament, I write down just a small little like 4x4 little like 2x2 grid of like seat positions, mulligans, who's playing what and all that stuff. So this is the first game. So game 1, I was seat 3. Let's see. We had Tyam in seat 1, we had Kinnan in seat 2, me in seat 3, and Yeva in seat 4. I kept what I thought was a pretty solid hand. I kept like 3 lands and like 4 tutors, which is like kind of what I was expecting that game to go. The game was very different than what I was hoping it to be, because I came to the conclusion really, really late that there's only one blue player in the pod, and when that's the case, I need to just step on the gas. The Kinnan player stepped on the gas very, very hard. We got Basalt Monolith on turn 2. It was insane. They went turn 1 Dork into turn 2 land Kinnan, Soul Ring, Basalt Monolith. Or no, I think they had and they also had a Mox Opal there as well. So they were just there, just hard there, and they just stepped on the gas. And their flips were, oh my god, their flips were insane. It was crazy. The first flip they resolved, Jin-Gitaxias. The second flip they resolved, Void Widower.
Nuts. Well, that was a very good game, and I guess we will move to next.
Yeah, no. Although I was proud of myself, I cast a D tutor on turn 2 to find a Solitude, and the Solitude was impactful because you know what their third flip was? Tidespout Tyrant.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So they cast a spell after flipping Tidespout Tyrant. Everyone went, you have the Solitude, right? I'm like, of course I have the Solitude. I had to tutor for it. And the Yellow player was like, yeah, I had a feeling you either had the Solitude and your tutor was to either find the Solitude or find a white card to pitch to Solitude. I'm like, you're not wrong. Because it was really funny. I had an interesting decision. I'm like, I pitched a Soul Partition. I contemplated, instead of detutoring for Solitude, holding up the Soul Partition. I'm very glad I found the Solitude, because I wouldn't have been able to stop the Tidespout Tyrant because there's a Void Widower on the battlefield.
And the Jin-Gitaxias.
I'm like, holy shit, I just big brained my way out of that. So that was that game. Game 2 was the only game I won all day. My God, what a nail biter of a game. Holy. So, all right. So, game 2, I was seat 2. Holland was in seat 1. I was in seat 2. We had an Urza, a liberator of Urza, the colorless flash guy. Poor dude. He was just top locked all day. He just couldn't find anything with the Sensei's top, but he kept looking. He kept flipping with that top. And then seat 4, we had a TNT player. Very, very interesting game. I narrowly won. The game went crazy. The Holland player had a Approach of the Second Sun that came out like kind of early on, and at that point, I politicked them into being enemy number 1. Guys, I'm going to keep track of every single card they draw. They had this many cards in. We can't let them get to and cast Approach of the Second Sun because we will just die on cast. Like counterspells don't work here. We discussed this previously, but I didn't fully understood how the card worked. I thought I did, but it worked out a little bit in my favor because I was able to essentially build from underneath their threat, which is what I aim to do a large part of the time. Barely squeaked by on my win through the narrowest of margins. The Urza Liberator player had we called it Rug. It's the 3-mana artifact creature, storm, lose life equal to the storm count. Smothering Rug. Basically knocked out the TNT player because they stopped me. They tried to stop me and then realized they died to the Rug trigger. Too late. It's kind of unfortunate. And I got knocked to 1 health. And I thankfully had a Deathrite Shaman on the battlefield to pump my life. Okay, so this was the turn. I was at 9 health. I had 4 counters on my ring. I had 5 counters on my ring. I dropped to 4 health immediately from the ring trigger. I had a mana crypt out. I'm like, please don't let me lose this roll. Please don't let me lose this roll. I lost the roll. At that point, I'm like, I can't cast any of these cards in my hand. I need to gain life somehow. And I'm like, wait a minute. Deathrite Shaman. I can gain 2 life. I can cast at least 1 spell, which is all I needed. I needed to cast my Vivian.
Favorite 1-mana Planeswalker.
Oh my God, card's so fucking good. I understand why it's banned in every format. It's so fucking good. I love the card so much. But thankfully, I only need to cast 1 spell. I had like 4 3-drops on the battlefield, a bunch of mana in a Vivian, and all the key pieces in the deck. I was just able to gun it. It was spectacular. Then game 3 was a fucking slugfest. Oh my God. So it was, I was seat 4. Seat 1 was Tivit. Then we had Atraxa, and then another Atraxa. I mulled to 4 this game. I kept Fetchland. No, it was the game that I won. I mulled to 4. I forgot that entirely. That's the reason why I was able to get away with so much, is I mulled to 4. The mull to 4, and the 4 I kept was Fetchland, Lotus Petal, Noxious Rival, Bowmasters. I'm like, this Bowmaster's gonna have to do a lot of work, and it did a lot of work. It was incredible. Game 3, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get anything productive done until people started fighting. The second Atraxa player had to mull to 3. And as soon as they reached mull to 4, my game plan became, I need the Tivit player and the other Atraxa player to wage war on each other. And then I will just be there causing chaos and trying to find my window as best as possible. I got so goddamn close. I kept like a pretty slow conservative start because I knew there was going to be counter magic early. I knew there was going to be a lot of interaction prepared early in case either one of the blue-black players decided to try and go for an early Thoracle. I knew early wins were not going to happen. So I cast Warlock on 2. I cast DI on 3, paying for Aristic Study to grab Jaheira because everybody took the clues. So I just had 8 clues in the battlefield, and I'm like, cool. I'm gonna play a dockside. I'm gonna play my own personal dockside for 10. And it was great. That Jaheira kept me alive in the game, and it ground. And I tried my damnedest. I had to loop a Necromancy to prevent the Tivit player from going off, to try and politic them into holding interaction to try and stop the Atraxa player. But the Atraxa player just got there. They just had everything and just were at the right place in the right time and played a solid game. I just could not stop them no matter what I did. And then game 4, I played the mirror. I got to play with Zach, the guy whose list I bid off of and made my own. And he stomped me really hard. he crushed us. It was insane. His hand was nuts. It was like turn 3 Rector. It was insane.
So how's the pairing into the mirror, do we think?
Oh, it's so swingy. It's so swingy, especially because that pod was another I was 4th seed again. Seat 1 was Tyam, then we had the mirror and baby pod, and we had Gymna. The game was going to be decided by whoever got to go off first. He got to go off first. And it was incredible. His start was nuts. He had turn 1 Dork into turn 2 Viscera Seer plus Max into turn 3 Rector.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something else.
It was nuts. My hand was just not good. I thought I kept something decent, thinking, oh, we're going to play slightly responsible. We at the table did not play slightly responsible. I was also expecting the Tyam player to have stacks pieces they were going to develop early. They just didn't get off to a fast enough start to develop stacks pieces.
That's unfortunate.
A little bit. But, like, even then, like, apart from like readjusting my mulligan priorities, like I still feel like I did as good as I could. I think I played my heart out. I think I played at the highest level I have been playing all year long, and I think I left everything on the table. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, I was a little like bummed that I didn't do well, and like, oh, the 1 in 3 dream, baby, it stays alive another time. But I think that I have made substantial progress in terms of my own play, even if my record doesn't necessarily dictate that.
Well, honestly, that's a huge step too, though. It's just like recognizing that you feel you have made progress, and like then you can capitalize on that in the new coming year. You can be like, okay, well, we did 1-3. We made it to 1-3 at the end of last year. Now this year we're gonna do 2-2, baby.
We're gonna go 2-2. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna start seeing top cuts. I'm gonna start seeing prizing for the first time. It's gonna be incredible. We're gonna start to dominate the world, and I love it. I love it. Which like I couldn't have asked for a better send off for the year, because this is going to be my last tournament for the year. I'm not going to be able to go to the RC due to retail world not letting me work over Thanksgiving weekend or close to it. But even then, I don't think I would be personally mentally prepared for that like scale of a tournament at this point. I think I would get eaten alive if I'm being honest. So we're gonna take some time. We're gonna mess around with some other decks. We're gonna try some other stuff. And then Baby Pod's gonna be back 2024, baby. We're gonna take it over. But yeah, that was yield tournament experience. The tournament went pretty well for the most part. I think apart from like I wish we actually got a lunch. And my game 2 and my game 3 just went super long. Both those games went into time, and they were like 20 plus minutes into time each game. I went from slugfest to slugfest, and I was just so spent.
The not getting a lunch just always takes it out of you. Yeah. Every single time.
It really does. Thankfully, I had enough time to walk to a grocery store, slam down a plate of deli sushi, slam an energy drink, and just get right back into the saddle. So I at least got a little bit of a break to like reset my mental. But yeah, no, just back-to-back game is just terrible. And that was really my only like actual complaint about the tournament. Is like I wish I got a longer lunch, but like it is what it is. In terms of like deck changes, are you happy with the changes that you made like going into the tournament? And do you think like
I think sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're good.
I think the only major change that I had in the list was like literally the night before I decided to cut Soul Partition, because it just wasn't feeling like the extra removal was doing all that much.
Mm-hmm.
I slotted in Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
I noticed that. Yeah, how was the Soul Cauldron for you?
I think I saw it in 2 games, and it played fine. It tested well. It played fine. The Incidental Graveyard Hate is strong. I don't think that it's necessarily like a keeper in the deck, but I do like that it just once a turn I can eat a card out of the most threatening Breach player's graveyard. It gives me options to hate out someone's Breach line. We give them the LED for their Sevin's Reclamation, they flashback their Sevrek and target their Breach, and I eat their Breach in response. Like, it's just things like that you can, and it's just another effect you can get away with under Silence.
Mhm.
Not a Grand Demolisher, unfortunately, but something you can get away with under a silence. And it incidentally, just like if you do happen to eat, like if Dockside gets thrown into someone's graveyard, or if like a Bloom Tender or something like that, you can eat those creatures, pump your Esper Sentinel with the counter, and then it also gains that text.
Yeah.
The Orcish Bowmaster also goes crazy with that card, since you can, if it's like a sack effect or something, every time it amasses, you get a new counter on a new creature, so you could sack it. It's
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so like you get someone's Ranger Captain onto the Bowmaster token or whatever.
Oh my god.
Your upkeep, I'll sack it. Oh, I draw a card. Okay, I'm gonna sack it again. Just things like that is it's just really interesting, and the color fixing isn't negligible. It matters sometimes. Just color fixing to Kenrith's ability. It was okay. I haven't made any other changes to the list. I'm not sure that I will. Before the next regional championships, I might. There are a couple cards that I'm looking at, but I haven't decided anything yet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, because I know, like prior to the tournament, we were discussing like grave hate options for you because you were talking about how like you feel like you basically only lose to Breach these days.
Yeah, it is an Underworld Breach world out there, and I do hate that card a lot.
But it's so cool.
It's very cool, and I do not enjoy losing to it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, Breach was a card like I was like sort of considering, but I think the issue is like I'm putting enough stuff into the graveyard just through like my tutors and stuff like that, but like I don't know if it's better than anything else that I'm doing right now. It's a good card, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if it does enough for the list. I think I still need to test it out and just see how I feel about it. Because it's a card that I'm strongly considering. I think I just want another like thing to do. I don't necessarily know if I want like a Breach outlet for it. Like I probably would just be playing Grinding Station if I really want to like put a Breach combo into the deck. But I don't even know if I want a Breach combo. I think I just want like actual value Breach. It's just like a good thing to do. You know, you talk about like how you're not on like intuition, like 100% intuition piles, but like you're on like a lot of skill intuitions.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I'm just like I think I can see a world where I decide to slot it in. And I have made some changes already to Baby Pod. I think I'm on I think I want to be on 2 more stacks effects. I think back on Douthy Voidwalker. I think I'm going to try and find a cut for Deafening Silence, because I think Deafening Silence came out in my game 4, and it felt pretty good to just play my game with a Deafening Silence on the battlefield. So I think I'm going to try
Didn't really feel like it affected you at all.
I didn't really care about it whatsoever. I did not care. Like I am effectively trying to cast 1 non-creature and a bunch of creatures on any given turn anyway. The only times that like Deafening Silence sucks is when I have to like Worldly Tutor and like Demonic Tutor, or like I have to be able to cast like two non-creature spells, or like I'm holding like a Necromancy or like a Cord or like a Saw on top of like my tutors, or like Birthing Pod effects, or like whatever like that. Like the only instances where it matters, but I think in those instances I think I just jam regardless, so, and just hold the other pieces up for later on anyway. Like, I'm gonna, like Deafening Silence is gonna prolong the game. Like I will just be able to cast those spells eventually. And then I've been swapping around a lot of like the like additional like tutor cards. I played Fiend Artisan for this event because I decided I want to cut draw engines in favor of more tutors. To help.
Interesting.
I'm not sure how I feel about that theory, because my current thinking is, sure, drawing cards is good and I should be drawing cards. However, there is a small percentage chance that like a Kiki piece ends up in my hand, and it gets a little bit harder to like combo off. Whereas if I can just tutor more for the cards that I do want, I can have a more reliable way to keep the Kiki cards in my deck. But also, like, I'm fine with the Kiki cards being in my hand. Like, they're good. Like Karmic Guide, it's not great. It's a little expensive for the rate, but it's good. It's good enough. And like Felidar Guardian, I'm so happy casting Felidar Guardians in any board state this deck produces. I'm so happy with that card's in my hand. Kiki Jiki is just the one card I don't like drawing. It's a little bit hard to cast and a little bit awkward and a little too easy to like stop me from doing my thing.
Yeah, I guess I understand that. Just me as a control player, I just, especially with like Opposition Agent being a card, I'm just like, I want those draw engines.
Oh yeah,
every single time.
Yeah, and that's like, it's a different like thought process of like, well, I'm already losing to this card. Like I already lose to Opposition Agent. if I lose harder to it, like I was already losing hard to it. Is kind of like I'm already 100. I'm already 0 to 100 on this card. Like, is losing to it 105 like to 0 like that much of a difference? It also means that my hands get more tutor dense, which is generally where I want to be. But I still think I want to be on a couple more draw engines in this deck. I need some way of punishing people for playing the game by giving me cards.
Yeah, that's reasonable, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the Fiend Artisan came out because I think it's just a little too slow. It's really good. It's really, really good. But the fact that I have to wait a whole turn before I'm able to use it's not great.
Sometimes it gives your opponents too much time to react.
Yeah, and if I don't have any creatures in the yard, like it dies to just a random Bowmaster's, like just like if I cast it and don't have a creature in the yard, that invites people just going, well, I guess I can just cast this Bowmaster's and kill this thing, and I go, well, that's my only game plan. So I'm gonna actually try out Pyre of Heroes, which is a card that Zach had talked to me about previously, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's whatever. But like after this weekend, like just giving Warnog more utility, because I have a lot of really good 3-drop humans that I really want to find a lot of the time. Find Ranger Captain, I can find Opposition Agent, Ewit, Jaheira. Like, the options are there. I haven't, and the rest of the lines aren't, like, great, but it's mostly there to just enable Will or Warnog better. But those are mostly the changes that I'm going to make to the deck, and I think they're going to be good. Like I said, I think I still want more draw engines in the deck, but I'll have to find the cuts for it, I think. I don't think there were very few. Were there any cards that, I guess I kind of asked this already, but like any cards that you like are looking at in a new light, being like, yeah, this really didn't do a whole lot, or like didn't do what I was fully expecting or wanting it to do?
I can't really say that I have run into much like that. I think probably the closest card to that would be Agatha's, right? It's just like that's like the one flex slot that I feel is like left in the list, really. There are other cards that I can test as newer or different things, but on the whole, the shell for my list is pretty locked, and I feel like the list complements myself, and I complement the list very well. And I don't feel like I'm being bottlenecked by my deck or vice versa. So everything feels really good. It's just a matter of like just playing, just becoming a better player every time, right? And I just got to make sure that I'm improving each time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I don't think there are any like glaring issues that I see when I look at your list. I'm on Dark Ritual. I think if I'm gonna go on Deafening Silence, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm gonna cut Dark Rit. It's like it's fine. Like, it helps me get out like a turn 1 Birthing Pod or like a turn 2 like One Ring, and like those are good, but like it doesn't feel like super duper necessary. Like, I'll just cast the cards eventually. Yeah, that was like the only card that like I'm not like super high on anymore. Every other card that like I saw and played and cast, all felt really good, really, really good.
I do like the idea of the Pyre of Heroes, though. That seems like it would slot in pretty nicely.
Yeah, I think I need to just like and it's already in there right now. I don't think I need to like reinvent any like lines or like change any creatures or whatever. It's just gonna be like a cool like incidental thing, but like it mainly exists to pot away Warnog into other value things. Yeah. Closing remarks on
we talked about the finals game. We didn't talk about who the winner was.
Yes.
Who won the tournament, Atlas?
How could we have missed that? Our friend Jarrett did a fantastic job piloting their way, snaking their way up from like 6th place all the way to 1st. So they navigated every hurdle and crawled right in there. 4th seat at the winners table. They did a fantastic job. They were playing Demir Malcolm, so Malcolm and Tevsat. So kudos to them. And I was talking to them some more, and they're really excited to play at the regional championships coming up and like fight more and a wider variety of opponents, and just get even stronger. So
heck yeah,
congrats to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, big congratulations to Jarrett. Jarrett was talking to me literally the day before. He's like, yeah, it would be really cool if I got a play map, but he's like, I don't know about trying to like beat Atlas. That'd be kind of crazy.
Well, he did. He certainly did.
He did. No, I'm so proud of him. Jarrett's my boy. I'm very happy for him. He absolutely deserved the win. All right. Well, I got nothing more to add to our little tournament talk. Anything you feel like we left out or we missed out on?
I don't think so. I think we've covered just about everything that was important from this weekend.
Excellent. Well, if we saw you at this weekend, happy to see you. Hope to see you at the next one. Atlas, always a pleasure being able to talk tournament games with you.
Yep.
We will catch you later, everybody.